one of the four fishermen from Capernaum, who Christ called to be one of his students. He was present with him from the first day until the Passion on Mount Tabor. He, James, and Peter saw Christ transfigured. He and his brother James had a moment of lapse in judgment by requesting that fire consume a town for rejecting them. He beheld him with 9 of the other major apostles and 2 of the minor 70 disciples. Between the second day of the Omer and the 42nd day of the Omer, he and 6 other apostles saw the risen Christ by Lake Tiberias. Throughout his ministry, he had clashes occasionally with his fellow ministers and was helped by Mary Magdalene. In AD 95, 50,000 to 80,000 spectators within the Flavian amphitheater watch as the elderly John, who was currently preaching to the crowd, is lowered into a massive cauldron filled with pitch with a massive fire underneath it. As he is submerged, the crowd cheers and Emperor Domitian laughs. Suddenly, John's hands reach up and grip the lip of the cauldron. Pulling himself up, he continued speaking to the crowd of horrified spectators. The emperor, after seeking counsel, sent John off into exile on the penal island of Patmos. Here, prisoners were sentenced to hard labor. As John was too old for hard labor, he was most likely given a position of a clerk in charge of the records for the island while serving his exile. He spent his days listening and watching guards supervise the prisoners as they broke rocks, wrote down clear notes pertaining to prison and labor management, and listening to the ocean waves crash along the shores of the 13.15 square mile island from the grotto he resided in. It was here that he had a vision or visions of the end of all ages. After Nerva became emperor due to Senate approval and the previous emperor's death, many exile prisoners were given amnesty, one of them being John the Immortal, as Romans called him. He arrived in Ephesus and was consecrated as a bishop. On December 27th, AD 100, John, the last disciple of Christ, is given a painless death in his sleep and is buried by the community of believers along with the apostolic age. O Lord, who didst will that thy word should take flesh, the message of an angel, grant to us, thy supplicants. Eternal Shepherd, look graciously upon thy flock, with the aid of those whom thou didst appoint pastors of the universal church. Keep it under thy continual protection. Grant, we beseech thee, Almighty Lord, that the appointment and the leadership of thy ministers may increase our devotion and promote our salvation. In other words, we humbly ask that you allow the ministers that you have called to help us grow our devotion to you and help us to promote salvation for others by leading them to your Son. Amen.